Hello, Steve Arts 89, and just like that, I caught up with, and just like that, episode 6, Diwali, I think that's how you say it. It's probably not, it's Hindu. This episode was interesting. It starts off with Carrie looking at apartments with Anthony. She's looking at this hideous glass box. It's incredibly modern on the river. Totally not her, but she buys it anyway because she wants, obviously, she's looking for something different. It really doesn't work. Not only is there some device that keeps beeping and driving her mad, but she basically spends all the time in the apartment wearing a sun hat and glasses because it's just too much. Now, the scene with Anthony is interesting because he asks her to go to a couple's plastic surgery consultation because him and his now ex were going to do that together, and he wants her to go with him so he doesn't do something crazy. So they go to that, and the plastic surgeon tells him, look, you really don't need any work, maybe a little bit of filler, that's it. But then he looks at Carrie, who we actually went to first, unfortunately, and says, we can do this, we can do that, we can do this. You're basically a hollower, you need some filler and so forth, and we can take 15 years off your looks. And she considers it. Now, Charlotte is struggling. Her main issue in this episode is that her daughters are changing and they're growing up. They don't want to be little girls anymore. They want to paint over the artwork in their rooms. They want her to get rid of her international dolls, which they think are problematic. And I think it's Rose is the girl who's not sure if she's a he or a she or a them, and she's experimenting and all that. She wants to cut her hair off, and Charlotte is resisting but trying to be accepting and so forth. And it's really her journey for the episode, really just her dealing with her kids. Now, Miranda has some bigger issues. She is still thinking about and fantasizing about Jay, and she messaged him and basically them and said, we should meet up sometime. So she wants to continue this because it's not just an affair, it's more than that. She's awakening something in herself that she wants to deal with. She probably should tell her husband about it and work through it with him rather than doing it behind his back. So there's a lot of judgment for her for a lot of people, including Charlotte, of course, and Carrie. Now, later in the episode, this does come up, but for the most part, Carrie is trying to deal with her loss. She's still sort of lost and she's kind of cold. I kind of want her to have an emotional reaction to some of this at some point, or a breakdown. She doesn't seem to have it. There's a point where she is going through boxes with Charlotte to try and work out what to take to this new apartment, and she opens a box of Big's records and she nearly cries. She gets emotional, but she still doesn't really let it go. And she ends up just taking the sun hat I mentioned, and a lamp. That's all she ends up having, this giant white, bright apartment, which is so artificial. It's actually not a real apartment. They actually use like green screen to create it. So clearly she's not going to keep it for the whole series because it would be too expensive, and she does sell it by the end of the episode. Now, the other two characters, because this is the sort of interesting part, aside from the end, but when we found out they were introducing new characters to the show, I think most people thought they would suddenly be these new best friends and be on the same level and be in the same amount of scenes and be as involved in their lives as, Samantha was, and there'd be the 4 or 5 or 6 girls together, or however many it was. It did seem like a big group. I wasn't sure how they're going to manage that. But then when we saw these characters, they were very much secondary, just in the other girls, the main girls' lives. Miranda's lecturer, a friend of Charlotte's that she really only sees within sort of her family groups, but she's trying to get closer to because she wants to be more diverse. They just seem kind of secondary. But in this episode, Naya all of a sudden has a couple of scenes by herself. She has a scene with a couple, one who is newly pregnant and has had 2 kids, and she doesn't want to feel pressured about the IVF situation in children. So she tries to take control of the conversation. Doesn't really work. And then there's a scene where she's making love to her boyfriend, and it's the first real adult sex scene. It's fine, but you're sort of watching these 2 scenes back to back with this new character that you feel like hasn't really been given the time to be a main character yet. So it just feels kind of odd, and I'm wondering, are they going to keep developing this character, or is this some random excuse to have a sex scene? I'm not sure. I just feel like if you were going to set up these characters as main characters to play on the same level as the three girls, they should have done that sooner. I feel like they've been secondary, and now at least one of them is sort of moving up. It's kind of you just feel like, why am I watching the scene with this other character without the other girls? Like, I feel like she's not a main character, so it's just kind of a bit odd. But the actress is good. The scenes are good. You feel for her because, you know, they just, no matter what she does, babies keep coming up. Now, the last part of the story really is the little picnic that the three girls have. And Miranda brings up her situation with Che, that she's basically experimenting. She doesn't know what she's doing. And Charlotte, of course, gets very upset and has a big reaction. Now, she asks her not to have a big reaction, but that does not help. And she gets quite upset, and she's quite judgmental. She says she's not progressive enough to do this, to get away with this, which is really insulting, and she walks off. And when she's walking off and Carrie's trying to diffuse the situation, Charlotte makes it even worse and says, you know, basically, you're having a midlife crisis, you should have just dyed your hair. Like it's that trivial, that it's not an important thing to her, that her sexuality, her gender, or her identity, all of that is just some sort of midlife crisis. And but Carrie goes to get her and says, look, we've lost too many people. We lost Samantha. I'm not losing you. You can be upset, you can disagree, we can disagree, but come back. You can't leave. So she goes back to the picnic table. They continue talking and so forth, and I guess they resolve their issues. And the only other thing, I almost mentioned Sema. Her story, like I said, she seems very secondary. She's in scenes with Carrie, but she doesn't sort of have her own life and her own scenes, unlike Naya's had. She invites Carrie to a Hindu ceremony, which is about the light overcoming the darkness. It's called Diwali. I'm still not sure if that's how it's pronounced, because I can't remember how they said it in the show, and I've just seen it written since then. I hope I haven't gotten it wrong. But she's talking about that, and she invites her to that, and that gives her an excuse to buy a sari, because she's like, I really wanted one, but I didn't want to be racially appropriating. She says, well, you're coming to this ceremony with me in my house to help me celebrate, so you're racially appreciating. So she gets all excited because she gets to buy a sari, and it's quite different from what I thought she'd wear. It's got a midriff section and that, and she has flowers braided through her hair, which is in a plait, and it's quite beautiful. I had seen her in that outfit, but didn't realise, even when she said she was buying a sari, that was going to be that outfit. So she goes to the event, and she finds herself in a very awkward position where Sema has actually made up a boyfriend she doesn't have, called Dennis, and she has to just pretend with the parents who are talking to her that this person exists, and then she has to talk to her about that, like, is this really, what does this really mean to you? If like, do you really not care? Is this really not a problem if you have to make up stories like this and so forth? And that's sort of the most her story evolves at that point. And like I said, she doesn't really have any scenes on her own, like Naya. And the other girls, they are all still the main characters. And I'm not sure if the dynamic's going to change. And that's pretty much it. I liked the episode. I liked that Carrie did at least get emotional for one moment in regards to Big. And at the end, she does actually bring everything back into the apartment. She sells her apartment, and I think she just decides to stay in that apartment, her old apartment, for now, because that makes sense. Because if she meets someone new, they can find a new place together. If she buys a place, she's going to have to sell it if she finds another partner and marries them and sort of has another sort of relationship like Big. She does flirt with the plastic surgeon as well. At the end of the episode, she's taking out Big's clothes and things, and she says, and just like that, I remembered how much I loved the last 15 years. And then they have I Can See Clearly playing, and that's the end of the episode. So it had a nice ending. I enjoyed it. I'm still not sure totally where the show's going, where the characters are going, but for the most part, the series is just about change and trying to embrace that. And I'm enjoying it. I'm glad I've got the girls back. And, yep, I'm looking forward to the next episode. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Thanks. Bye.